Hummus, that's the pine nut hummus with corn nuts, avocado, tomatoes, bell pepper, cabbage, cilantro, and sunflower seeds. And he's having a gluten-free English muffin and some grapes and Catalina dressing. And I'm going to read a poem and then just leave this to James. So James, you may as well sit down, and I'm just going to not get you out of the way. So and you can put on your own dressing. So here's my poem, Salvation, which, I mean, it didn't work either, but it's a Saturnian, and I wrote it in the same form as the other one, but neither one really, like the one that I read yesterday, but neither one really worked out. So this one was my second attempt at the sentiment, and I didn't like it either. So I really hate this weather. Heat waves suck. Tomorrow is 38, then cooler with some luck. Some young speeders, let's drive away together, somewhere mild. Let's borrow a car today. Let's fuel her up, then wild with cedars and waterfalls tomorrow. Should we stay here sweating? Salvation calls the willing. Angels say vacation and you'll defeat this sorrow. You can't lose. We're letting this hellish heat keep killing us. Let's choose salvation. That's all. So now you're up. So James is going to talk about that same book that he's been talking about.
The Mafia Murder of J.F.K. and anticipating ultimate sacrifice. I've already gone through ultimate sacrifice. I've already done the Mafia Murder of J.F.K. at least once. I went through the second time. And the reason I say at least once is because I have 2 copies of it. I think I went through the other one. What am I going to say?
So this is it.
That's the cover.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than that.
Yeah, it is, because it's just the cover. But how do you like corn nuts with the salad? Too crunchy for you?
Well, I just ate a corn nut. I didn't want to fill my mouth up with salad, so I'll try some.
Well, no, it doesn't matter.
Well, some people do.
I've been thinking about different toppings for salads that one may think, well, they're not very healthy. I mean, you think about eating corn nuts and it's just a treat, right? It's like eating chips or something. But why not corn nuts? I mean, we eat nacho chips and they're chips. And so corn nuts, whatever, it doesn't matter. So these are unsalted corn nuts. And I mean, I had the option of several flavors. I think they had 4 at the bulk bar, but I just went for the unsalted.
What was this? Unsalted?
Yeah, just plain old corn nuts.
It's plenty fine. It's better than croutons, for example.
Yeah. All right, are you done with the salad dressing then? Okay, I'm going to take it inside.
Yeah.
All right, go ahead with John F.
So the book that whose cover is Pauline brought out was The Mafia Murder of J.F.K. by David Shine, published 1988. Pretty good book. Way too much emphasis on the Mafia. There were other elements involved. The Mafia, I think, played the leading role, but there were Southern racists involved, possibly some rich Southerners, Lamar Hunt, H.L. Hunt, for example. Southern racists, a guy called Miltier, forgotten it. He seemed to have foreknowledge of what was going to happen. Where was he from? Georgia, Florida, somewhere around there. Not Dallas itself. There were some corrupt police guys in Dallas, and they're going right to the top from what I can tell. Sheriff Decker, what his first name is, forgotten. Going to seem a little bit distrait or something like that, to use a French word. Pardon the French, as they say. I just finished the treatment, and in anticipation of the treatment, I have to take something called montelukast and 2 Tylenols, which shouldn't affect me terribly much. And then a Benadryl, which kind of makes me a little fuzzy. So my apologies if I can't quite remember things the way I'd like to. And of course, when I'm taking a treatment, I take something interesting to read, but it's not interesting enough to keep me awake. You know, stuff that I take. I get an infusion. I mainly sleep there about 3 hours. So I'm still trying to wake up from it. You know, well, you can, and many people have, Oliver Stone as an example, underestimate mafia contribution to the murder of J.F.K. and assassination of J.F.K. You know, too many people died. It's the mafia way of doing things. You know, like people who are inconvenient for them. They can't be intimidated. They'll kill them. And if they look dangerous enough, they don't even bother with intimidation. From what I can tell, a lot of people who died, very innocent people who died, they weren't involved with mafia. You know, oftentimes mafia people, if you borrow from them or something like that and don't get the money back, they'll intimidate you and then they'll kill you if you can't get the money back. There's a guy called Leo Bowers who's an observation tower maybe 14 feet above the ground, back of the grassy knoll. We saw lots of what was happening on top of the grassy knoll. He was up above it all. You could see it. And he saw a couple of guys kind of near the corner of a, what do they call it, a stockade fence or something like that, top of the grassy knoll. He heard what sounded like firecrackers, I think. Then he saw smoke rising up. Well, he didn't last too long. He died in what was a single car accident, and in a place called Midlothian, kind of like southwest of Dallas, southeast of Fort Worth, pretty close. Maybe in the same county as Dallas. Is that Dallas County? Can't remember. And what was her name? Earlene Roberts, I think, or something like that. The woman who owned or took care of the place that Lee Harvey Oswald was staying at. November the 22nd, 1963. And the days leading up to it. And she saw important stuff. I mean, assassination took place at 12:30, about the same time that they were declaring John F. Kennedy dead. I believe it was 1 p.m. November the 22nd. Lee Harvey Oswald came, I guess one account says, kind of came busting back into his place, which is a place called it was in a place called Oakville. It still exists. Oakville, Dallas, it's part of West Dallas, across the Trinity River. And he either changed his clothing a little bit or put on a jacket or something like that. My suspicion is he put on the jacket so he was lugging a gun, and then he went out. It's important because, potentially, I believe she's the one who said he looked as though he was standing by a bus stop to take him north along. I think it was rooming place was on Beckley something or other, and street or avenue. And then he changed his mind. It looked like he changed his mind and headed south on Beckley, and somewhere southeast of there, an officer got, a Dallas police officer got killed. I suspect he was assassinated, but Lee Harvey Oswald could have killed him. He would have known the fix it was in. I think he knew about the plot. I don't think he was in on the sense of planning it or anything like that. It's just what I can tell, and other people can tell. He was an FBI informant. He worked for a lot of different agencies, and at that point in time, the agency that he was legitimately working for, or really working for, was the FBI. He was, I suspect he penetrated the plot to kill Kennedy. So a right-wing plot, and I don't know if he was working as a CIA agent at that point in time as well, and or for the Office of Naval Intelligence, ONI, I don't know if he said ONI, Office of Naval Intelligence. That would be the one that would be closest to what his training would have prepared him for, why he was a Marine, and I guess Office of Naval Intelligence would kind of cover that. Well, there are other agencies that he could have worked for. I don't think he did. He might have Army Intelligence in the United States. That's a different thing from the CIA or the Office of Naval Intelligence. He could have worked for National Security. What's it called? Well, there's an advisor, and then there's a National Security something or other, NS something like that. And that's supposed to be an overarching entity that looks over all these intelligence agencies. So, and I will, here's what I will say about David Shine. You know, it hasn't been emphasized enough by Times. Especially, so this is news for Oliver Stone, who sees that assassination as being a CIA. You know, wow. It's just elements in this. You know, how can you tell? You know, I used to be kind of bored by the J.F.K. assassination. I, like most people, unlike E. Howard Hunt, can remember where I was when I found out about the assassination. E. Howard Hunt couldn't tell people where he was on the 23rd, or the 22nd, or the 21st of November 1963. Why? How do we know? He refused to say in court. He was taken to court and found guilty of slander. Maybe he was liable too. I can't remember, but someone had accused him of being part of the plot, and he slandered the person who was accusing him. And the lawyer who handled that was a writer as well. His name was Mark Lane. He did an incredible job tricking E. Howard Hunt into incriminating himself on the witness stand. One of these Ivy League types. He went to not a very prestigious Ivy League place by comparison with some other places, but still probably something like the top 20 in the world. Brown University, there is such a place in Providence, Rhode Island, or in Rhode Island. I don't know if it's exactly in Providence. It's about the only city in Rhode Island. I believe it's the capital as well. And Rhode Island is basically just the size of a city. That's about all. So smallest American state. Not in population, but in terms of geographical area. And but I'm going to relate to you. I've done it before. Most of you wouldn't have heard me say it. I got interested. Yeah, when I was a kid, I can remember seeing, trying to keep track of the way they had Lee Harvey Oswald moving around through Dallas in the wake of the assassination. Not the assassination that he committed, but in the wake of the assassination. Of course, the magazines and publications I was seeing that these maps in were saying that he didn't. So anyway, kind of bored about it. Couldn't follow it when I was a kid. I was 10 years old. It seemed very complicated. It is complicated. The whole thing is complicated. That's the whole idea. But then I started working at the police station here in Longreach. It was the beginning of the new year. It wasn't January the 2nd, but pretty close. I'd taken the Christmas holidays off. Holidays right into the new year. It could have been January 2nd or a couple of days off. And I'd just been shifted over to the cop shop from the old city hall. So it was my first day on the job. New year, started out. It just parachuted me in there. It wasn't my choice by any means. I never would have exercised a choice like that. And so I didn't know where to go. There were two doors in. I picked the wrong door. It was the closest door. It was a place that you went in to deal with traffic problems, pay your fines or whatever. I think it and the front entrance on the north side. So I took the east side. The north side would have been the appropriate side to go in through, but I would have faced the same problem there. What was the problem? I believed in turning up my shift right on time, and I was there with maybe a minute to spare. My shift started at 3 o'clock. I was saying 4, but it was really 3 o'clock. From 3 to 11. Most of the time I worked in 3 overtime. But that's another story. Anyway, maybe 1 minute to 3, half a minute to 3, I turn up. I knew I'd have a job to do because there had been previously 3 city janitors working there. Now it had been cut down to 2. So I knew that I'd have something like 50% more work than the folks before me had. Turned out more than that, but that's a different story. So I wanted to start, get started and get out of there by 11. And they wouldn't let me in. So it had been arranged that I was supposed to turn up there, right? And the policeman wouldn't let me in. And I said, "Who are you?" I said, "Well, I'm the new janitor. My name is James Bell." And they said, "Well, how do we know who you are? Do you have any ID?" I didn't used to carry around ID. I didn't want to lose it. So they said, "We're not letting you in here without ID." Now, eventually, they ran 2 security. They weren't going to let me just any old person work there without running through a security check. I went through 2. Preliminary one, so, okay, it looks as though this guy might be okay. And then a more thorough one, an official one. They don't want criminals or people who are related to criminals, I suppose, working in those sorts of places. Why? There's evidence in there. There's all sorts of stuff that people could cause problem with if they were problem people. So they didn't have anything like that on me, they had no photo of me or anything like that. So they weren't going to let me in. But I ended up being about as good a person as you could let in there. So they finally said, "Well, do you know anyone who works there?" And I go, "I have no." And then, there's a guy who's supposed to the other janitor there. They had him work in the daytime, and so his shift would have been ending. I said, "Well, is Joe so and so in there?" I'm not giving his name, but they said, "I don't know. Go see if you can rouse out Joe so and so." I arrested out Joe so-and-so, and Joe so-and-so had to vouch for my identity. Otherwise, I wasn't going to get in there. It would have been like a whole day's potential work wasted. They weren't going to let me in. Now, where was Lee Harvey Oswald killed? In the Dallas police station basement. City of Lethbridge police basement. You couldn't get in. There was an entrance down there, but that entrance, you accessed it from the front door. That was, you needed a key card to get in through there. There's no way, there's no one there to vet you for going in or stuff like that. See how that works out? So you had to come in through one of the two main entrances, one on the east side, one on the north side, both on the main floor. How much time can we check from?
Yeah. You've lots of time.
Okay, 15?
10.
10, okay. So I somewhere along the, I guess I was interested in police matters or something like that once I started working in the coffee shop. So and then I saw a book. It was about accusing J. Edgar Hoover of being complicit in the assassination of J.F.K. And it was on discount. So, I'll grab it. Again, I wasn't terribly interested in that assassination. And I don't think, like I remember Rolling Stone or something like that in the 70s had an article on assassination. I kind of browsed it. So I'm reading this book. And that's where I realized, what? The assassination of Lee Harvey Oswald by Jack Ruby took place right in the Dallas police station. Oh, it was a parking garage. Understand, to get into the parking garage, which wasn't in the basement of the city of Lethbridge, but at the back of the place, you needed a key card. There was no one there to let you in. Yeah? There was no one there to let you. Had to have a key card. Didn't have a key card, you had to go to the two official entrances and get someone to let you in. Well, I'm going, wow. Something was really wrong with the internal security at the Dallas police station on November the 24th, 2 days after. It was on the Sunday. The assassination was on the 22nd, 2 days after the assassination of J.F.K. The police were holding Oswald there in their own police station for questioning. The police station at the city of Lethbridge had holding cells there, and they would have had them, or something equivalent, in the Dallas police station. That's where Oswald was hanging. And I'm going, wow, I knew Ruby had mob connection, but I didn't realize how close. So I believe in this book they were talking about it. Wow, I couldn't get in. I ultimately checked out clean. I couldn't get in, and I was employed there. And here in the Dallas police station, when they're holding the most valuable prisoner probably they could ever hold, unless their history goes into infinity or something like that, Lee Harvey Oswald. I mean, how many cities in the United States have been able to hold an assassin of the United States? It's coming up their 250th anniversary. They've only had 4 presidents assassinated. Wow. You'd think an ultra-tight security, right? They don't just let a guy breeze in off the street. He's a guy, well, with confirmed mafia connections, and really a member of the mafia. Like you'd call him an associate member because he wasn't Italian. Jewish extraction, maybe on both sides of the family. His his real name was Rubenstein, which basically means ruby stone in German. Yeah, who knows? It might have been Jacob. Anyway, Jack might be short for Jacob. Who knows? It doesn't matter. But Jewish extraction. Mafia. A mafia associate. He'd come from Chicago. The stories go that as a kid he'd kind of run errands for Al Capone. Wow. And his brother was even slimier than him, apparently. What was his name? Hiram Rubenstein. And they led him into the police station, lugging a gun, no less. At 38 something or other. And then they had it set up so, like there was a kind of a free fire zone. Like, bring Lee Harvey Oswald kind of presented on a platter, so Guy can rush out from a crowd of reporters. Ruby can rush out from a crowd of reporters, stick a gun practically into Lee Harvey Oswald's gut. It's strictly speaking his abdomen, not his stomach. And he only had to fire one shot. No one protecting him. Lee Harvey Oswald. There are two guys. You know who's on the spit list at the police station? Because one guy to the right of Lee Harvey Oswald, he's handcuffed. And you can see him. He wasn't in on the fix. He's just backing away. He doesn't want to be collateral damage. He's shocked. You can't, in the almost like semi-official picture, the one that made it all over the world and reproduced in all sorts of books and stuff like that. The other guy's hidden by Jack Ruby, bursting out of the crowd wearing his imitable fedora and stuff like that. Looks like a fat Frank Sinatra, really. And but you can kind of see that guy's kind of maybe shying away and stuff like that. I think those guys were on someone's spit list because, when assassination attempts happen with guns, they're oftentimes or sometimes collateral damage. Yeah. Anyway, I knew then that it was a conspiracy. It was a conspiracy to wipe out Lee Harvey Oswald, and there had to have been at least one conspirator inside the Dallas police station to let Jack Ruby in, and Jack Ruby was involved in it. So you've got, let's say Lee Harvey Oswald really was involved in the killing. There's at least 3 people involved in the killing right there. But it goes right up to the top from what I can tell. Or close to it. Captain Will Fritz was a friend of Ruby's, apparently. The head of the police station, the police chief, Jesse Curry, knew, looks as though he was a friend of Jack Ruby. What sort of police force is it where these kind of guys, these top, Captain Will Fritz was the head of homicide investigations. The police chief, well, that speaks for itself. What are they doing hanging around with a sleazeball like Jack Ruby handled a strip club? It looks as though, I don't think it's any great secret, he was pimping out his strippers. It's becoming increasingly clear over the decades, not just years, that Jack Ruby was high up in narcotic trafficking coming into Dallas, stuff like that. Wow, real classy joint, the Dallas police force back then. Hopefully they cleaned up their, I'll say, noses. Absolutely shameful. So I knew, only a fool, knowing what I knew about how police stations are operated, would think that somehow or another Jack Ruby got in there lugging a gun just by